a playlist original.
If someone was hunting everyone around you, you could run, you could hide, or you could fight like hell. High Tension. Rated R. Theaters everywhere, June 10th.
All right, guys. So welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. We're deep diving another film today. Recently had an anniversary, at least here in the States. We're gonna just get right into it. Jackson's not here with us today because he is busy with work. But Mark J. Parker of the Release Date Rewind podcast has helped me out today on this special occasion. Welcome. As always.
Hello, welcome. Well, why am I saying welcome? You're saying welcome. Thank you, thank you, guys. I have heat wave brain, so I'm not totally. I don't know where I am. I think I'm having weird
You're having hot flashes.
Marie, like our lead actress. I'm like, who am I? Where am I? But you'll be happy to know I have my Final Girl T-shirt on for us. I feel like she's sort of. I mean, it works, right?
In a real it's a in a real twisted kind of way. We are covering the movie High Tension, which actually recently had an anniversary. Its 20th anniversary, in, at least for its release in the States, was on June 10th. It came out June 10th, 2005. One of the reasons why I asked Mark to do it is that I kind of forgot about it until I saw you post it on your page.
Oh yeah,
and your story that
inspiration.
I was like, oh yeah, did that really come out then? Like around then? I was like, oh shoot,
yeah.
And then I think it was funny is that I did have it on our list and just kind of forgot that it was
totally.
On the list.
Mm-hmm. Same day as Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brangelina counter programming.
Now, oddly enough, I saw both of these the same weekend. So, I know I saw Mr. and Mrs. Smith opening night. That was a Friday kind of thing.
I forget which one I saw first, but I know I saw both in theaters. This was a very exciting time for me because 20 years ago, crazy, in June of 2005, I was about to graduate high school. I was a senior, last few days of school. So a friend and I forgot who I saw Mr. and Mrs. Smith with. That one wasn't as memorable for me as this movie, but I saw this like the night before finals and I was so stressed and I was like, oh my God, I picked the wrong movie to this is hardcore. But saw in theaters, hardcore.
I saw this probably that same weekend. I saw with I remember it was four of us. Half of us loved it, the other half was not pleased with what the outcome was.
I know.
And then I kind of found out that from the few other people I didn't know that saw it, it was the same thing. People either really loved it or they hated it. Now, I was under the impression, I think, when it came out that it actually got like pretty good reviews, but then I looked it up. But I looked it up for this, and like it has a 40% Rotten Tomatoes. So I guess it was pretty like polarizing back then, and like it had, and a lot of it had to do with like the violence. I know Roger Ebert gave it 1 star out of 4.
Did he really? Whoa.
Yeah. Mostly, I mean, by the way, Roger Ebert has a very love-hate relationship with horror movies. It's the ones that he loves are, we love that he has, Halloween's back. He loves the original Halloween.
Yeah.
And he'll say that he hates violence and like, gore, but then he loved The Last House on the Left, which is like very violent.
Oh my God, which is so intense. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I look at this and he also famously hated the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Like like you would have thought that movie kicked his puppy the way he talks about it at the time. So like, but what he also didn't like about it is he won't even call it a twist. He just says like a gaping plot hole that you can drive a truck through is what he said about the movie's ending, which I know we'll get to into like a little later. But that is another bone of contention with a lot of people that
with critics and fans. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's very polarizing.
Like, does it work like when you're watching it? And it was interesting for this because like, so I remember seeing it in theaters and like honestly digging the fact that, I think I could have accepted it if it was just like crazy dude attacks, this random family's house and this girl is like their only, kind of hope for survival. Like that it wouldn't have been as interesting, but I think I would have like still dug it.
Yeah.
But then when it flipped like on its head and like revealed what it really was, I was like, oh, like I thought that was a pretty unique twist. And I guess like the big issue is whether or not throughout the whole movie, if you watch it, does that twist work? Does it really, hold up?
Right.
And when I watched it for this, I watched it in a way because I already know it at this point. You're watching it, you've already seen the movie.
Yeah.
I watched it for this watch, like trying to like go through each scene, like, okay, like which part of this is in her head, which part of this is transpiring in real time, as herself, which as herself that she's presenting to Alex, like her nice friend, or which part of this is being transpired as her being crazy. And there's a lot. What scenes are really happening in real time versus like what might be
just
in
her head. Yeah. What's real and what's in her mind? For a while we don't really understand. And even and like I know we're jumping around, but I do love like the big final chase and how it goes in and out, that works for me. That's scary, but what's fun, because I hadn't rewatched this in a while. It had been a good few years, Gaius, but I had seen it multiple times, and I think I might own it. I just watched it on Tubi and Plex with ads, which was annoying, but I was the same way. I was like, knowing the ending, watching it now, like with that knowledge, like to really kind of piece it together. But I don't know. A lot of it I think works. You sort of have to just, suspend some disbelief here and there, because Alex, the friend, the daughter of the family, she's at times like calmer with Marie, and then at times like freaking out. So I feel like the whole time she'd be freaking out, so whatever.
That was the whole thing with me too. I was like, how much of it is like, is she in shock, or does she not understand? Like, if you had someone like who at one point is like, gagging you and chaining you up, and then at another point it's like, hey, I'm here to help you, it's gonna be okay. Like, how would you be reacting to that? And would you be like, would you be freaking out, or would a part of you be like literally confused by like what's going on?
That's true. Just like frozen. So I think I kind of
So I think I accepted some of her some of Alex's like apprehension and like a bit because of that, because I'd be confused as fuck too if I was like, whoa, I don't understand what is going on with you right now. But for those that don't know, the plot focuses on a young student who travels with her classmate to visit her family at their secluded farmhouse, where a murderer breaks in on the night of their arrival. That is a bare bones description of the plot. There's a lot more going on here. It was released for the first time in 2003, actually, at the Toronto International Film Festival as part of the Midnight Madness section. It was acquired by Lionsgate after that. Lionsgate had it redubbed in English and re-edited to secure an R rating, and they spent $14 million for a wide release of the film, which happened on June 10th, 2005. It only grossed $3.6 million here in the States and $6.8 million worldwide. $2.5 million budget, but like Lionsgate also spent $14 million to redub it and do all that stuff to it. So I guess technically it's a flop.
I guess so, which is crazy because so many horror fans know this movie. Like, even though it might have been a smaller release, I just feel like instantly, like, I don't know, this I somehow found out about it. You did too, back long before social media. Well, I guess it was starting at this time, So I mean, people really were aware of it, and almost every horror fan knows it. So I guess it just had more success, home video, DVD, streaming, I guess, as the years went on, because it's a popular entry, I'd say, in French horror.
Yeah, and the director is Alexandre. I don't know how to pronounce.
I know. I think it's Alexandre Aja. I believe.
Aja. Yeah. This movie actually led to when Wes Craven wanted to have The Hills Have Eyes remade. They went directly to him because of this movie, and honestly, what he does with I can't wait to cover that remake on the show one day.
What a good remake!
Because I honestly think I think it might be the best of those 2000s
of that era. Those mid 2000s remakes, we had so many of them, and Hills Have Eyes is up there. It is brutal and so effective and scary and sad. He's a great filmmaker. He's visceral.
And you can tell, like, when you watch this, there's a little bit of influences from like Last House on the Left, little Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a lot of that in this. But I was really just impressed by what I want to ask you is, did you watch it dubbed in English, or did you watch it with subtitle?
That's a really good question. I really can't remember what my theater was playing. I think it's crazy they spent so much money to redub it and put it in theaters. That's crazy to me.
That's probably because they were like, do foreign film, will a foreign film sell like this horror, like especially with how brutal and it was. But that is a lot of money to spend to kind
I
of
really don't know. I wish I remembered if I was watching with subtitles. I mean, it's not a very dialogue heavy movie, right?
yeah, only in the
Um,
beginning really, and then the
yeah,
middle
and just
section
like
is
a
like
few
all action.
lines right
Yeah.
throughout. But yeah, it's mostly all action. So I feel like we actually did see it dubbed, but I could be wrong. The version I just watched was with subtitles, and I think most of the home viewings I've had are subtitles with like the French
Yeah,
audio.
so
What about
I
you?
saw I saw it in theaters when it was dubbed in English, and I
Yeah.
I remember at the time it felt like it did seem like it was kind of poorly dubbed a little bit,
Okay.
but still I enjoyed what I mean. It was still enough to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then when it came out on DVD is when I watched it unrated, in French but with subtitles, and it is better that way. That's how I
Yeah.
watched it last night. And the unrated version, I did watch like a little comparisons of what were
Yeah.
cuts.
What's the difference? Can you tell? More
The
violence?
one big, it's more violent, and the one big one is when the guy who she runs the car she runs up on at the end of the movie to help her, when he is getting, I mean, what is that thing?
I know, like this
It's like
electric
a
saw,
yeah.
right? Circular
Yeah,
thing.
he is getting wrecked in the chest by
Ooh.
this thing, and there's one point where there's so much blood that it splatters on the camera,
Uh,
and they were gonna cut that, I guess, but like the director liked it so much, he was like, no, I think it kind of goes along with the whole like
yeah.
surrealistic aspect of the movie,
Hmm.
but that was one of the things that they did cut down for an R rating, because they said that scene was too vicious. Some of the stuff in the house was cut down too. The intensity like of the when the father gets killed a bit is cut down a little bit, which is
Oh,
intense.
I always forget about the dad's death. I remember the mom's death very well. Like
Yeah,
that just really disturbed me. And there are some moments we'll talk about them that like are just burned in my brain. But for whatever
yeah,
reason, I kind of forgot how dad gets it. And holy shit. Oh
yeah,
my god. So yeah, that was more intense than the unrated. Oh god.
yeah. And
I
even though
can't.
we don't see it, I mean,
Hmm.
always like nerve. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's ballsy to kill a kid in the movie,
Oh god.
and we don't see him get killed.
Yeah.
We just see like kind of like the aftermath of it. But like I thought that was like, I was like, okay, well, this person means business if they're killing children in
Yeah, and the
a horror
version I
movie.
saw, all we saw, which is a really effective sequence when Alex is free, when Marie frees her,
Yeah,
thinking, and thinking it's all done. She killed the bad guy, but we now know you are the bad guy, right?
yeah,
And Alex is like, my family, like what you, and she has the knife, and she's
yeah,
thinking of all, we kind of see quick glimpses of everyone, and that's the
yeah,
only time we see the boy in the cornfield with a flash from the rifle.
yeah.
So yeah, ooh,
Yeah,
bleak. And the
and I
dog,
think
oh, the kid and the dog.
the dog, and like I think
Mm.
what shocked me about the flashback to the kid is I assumed that like the kid got shot from like a far distance, I guess.
Right.
But then like what her flashback indicates is that it was like point blank, like right,
Yes, right there.
yes.
Oh,
So like that was pretty.
this movie is
And
brutal. It is so brutal, guys, and I love it. But like, and when you asked me, like, hey, you want to talk about this? I was like, oh my god, hashtag honored. Absolutely. Like this movie is so memorable for me. And like you said, completely kickstarted Aja's like big horror career, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
man, once it started playing, I'm like, oh, I don't want to rewatch this.
You're like I
It's that
forgot. You're
like,
like I forgot how brutal it
like,
is.
yeah, you forget that these movies, they're so good. And I think well made. I mean, the haters can hate, but I think this is a well-made
Yeah,
movie. But
I think
man,
so
it's
too.
like, oh, I forgot. This isn't really a fun horror movie. This is tough.
No,
This
it's
is
not,
not for the weak.
and I feel like it came out during that time when we were getting a lot of brutal ones. Like when I was
Mm.
watching this, I was thinking about like Wolf Creek, which is also pretty
Oh my god, I love
brutal, and
Wolf
like
Creek. That came out later that year.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I was like that reminded me of that too, where I was like,
that's
oh,
brutal.
this is like very much like around the time that these kind of really gory and
Yeah.
like they weren't skipping on showing you blood and gore
Yeah,
in a
it's
very
almost like
and not in a campy way, in a very like serious like, oh, this is
oh,
how
yeah.
realistic kind of way that was
Yeah, not
pretty
like the
visceral.
Kill Bills or the Drag Me to Hells kind of blood. This
Yeah,
was like really realistic. And I feel like it sort of started with like, yeah, the Texas Chainsaw remake. Like this
yeah,
era was really violent in a very realistic way. And I wonder if it was sort of just the answer to, some years had gone by since Columbine, which affected at least Scream
a
3,
lot of
like
horror
we've
movies.
talked
Yeah,
about, but like the Scream films were bloody, but not nearly like this. So it seems like horror filmmakers were like, all right, end of that era. Like, let's really get gnarly,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And also this movie is also known as Switchblade Romance in some English
Oh
speaking
yeah,
character.
I have seen that
like,
cover somewhere. Yes,
which I think like, oh, it works. It kind of works if you know
it
the
does work.
outcome
But I
of the
just love
movie.
High Tension because I mean
Yeah,
that's the movie. The movie is so tense. I remember seeing it for the first time and leaving the theater and being like, yeah, that title absolutely fits. You know,
yeah, yep.
crazy.
And kudos to it being only like 95 minutes. It's
Oh,
really
it's
short.
fast. Yeah. If
So it
anything,
moves
like
pretty
some
quick.
moments I
Yeah,
think could have even been trimmed even more. Like, we spend it's almost like a little bit of like a music video at times where like we're spending some
yeah,
quiet moments. You could trim that if you really wanted to, but it moves. Yeah.
yeah. So what, like, going into it at the start, like, what was your thoughts on like the two, I guess, main
Mm.
characters? Like, did you have like, I guess like automatically, Marie is like the most interesting of the two because it seems like
Oh yeah.
she, even before you know that she has stuff going on, it seems like she
Mm.
has like stuff going on a
Yep.
bit.
You're so right.
And
He
and
seems a little
even at the
more
start of it, there
thoughtful.
seems like there is some kind of like, I don't know if I'll say attraction at the beginning of the movie, but like there's some like she feels some type of way
Oh yeah.
about Alex.
Yeah.
Where they have that kind of discussion about when she kind of scampered off and like hooked up with some guy, and the way that she addresses it, it's not some like, I'm glad you had fun. It's almost like a little bit of a disdain of like,
Yeah.
You kind of went off, and they go back and forth calling each other like names, and she's like slut, or like, it's like this. It does seem like there's a little bit of like jealousy there.
Right.
But I guess enough to really like hold on to it. And if you didn't know where the movie was going, then you're like, oh, they're just kind of like bantering their girlfriends. Like that's
Right.
kind of what it is. But like you
Yeah.
do kind of see a little bit of tension, however you want to define it, between the two characters.
Totally. Which I like. I like that because, and it's funny. I remembered that this was kind of like, it's a queer horror film. I would describe this as queer. Happy Pride,
Right.
everyone. We're talking about a weird, twisted
Queer.
movie. But yeah, I mean, when you look at Marie, she's so cute but tough. She's a little masculine with the short hair. She's strong. You can tell.
Yeah.
So she's a very interesting look. As is Alex, played by just simply Maiwenn. I don't know what Maiwenn. Maybe she's a singer as well, I think, in France. But yeah, and Cecile de France, which she's done a few things. I know she popped up in a couple other things. But yeah, the women are very unique looking, and you get immediately a queer vibe from Marie, just stereotypically at least,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of like, and then once things, move forward and we know what's happening towards the end, I just think like, and I don't know if this has really been said places, because I did some research, but I didn't want to look into it too much because I kind of wanted to just ponder with you. But like, I almost feel like this movie is about repressed homosexuality. And anytime Marie is, she sees Alex's naked body through this window, I'm like, Alex, you don't know that there's a window and it's nighttime and anyone else. I mean, I know you're surrounded by a cornfield, but girl, like, you don't want to just like pull a shade. But we see Marie kind of watching her body, like you said, sort of giving her some, jabby jokes about like hooking up with guys. So, and then of course, as Marie's masturbating, that's when the man comes to the house and is now revved up. Right. So it's very interesting because I forgot, for some reason in my mind, because I hadn't seen this in probably close to 10 years, if not longer, maybe it's been a long time, but I thought they were a couple. I forgot that they're just friends. So
they're just friends.
Yeah, it seems right. Like a little bit of jealousy and repressed sexuality is what's making Marie snap into her alter ego.
Yeah.
Right. And going after the woman who doesn't love her the same way. Right.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think it is a movie about that. Yeah, about those kind of repressed feelings that she can't really deal with, which is why this other thing comes out of her. And like, and what was interesting is that when I first saw it in theaters, like that wasn't something I really paid attention to. I was like, but I was younger and was like, I didn't pay attention to it until recent, like with this one. And I saw the movie like maybe 5 or 6 years ago before watching it for this again. But like, it is interesting that those are the things that trigger her to kind of flip into this kind of like darker version of herself. And it's interesting. It's hard to talk about. I mean, I guess we can't talk about the movie without talking about like what the twist is, because it is such a big, it's such a big part. Yeah, it's such a big part of it, even though it's revealed at the end. But like, I think that I think it's interesting that she puts herself in the position to be this person that gets rid of these people who are in the way of her being with Alex, like in her head. So like getting rid of like, the family and all that stuff, even though she wouldn't have to do that, but they're being perceived as obstacles, but then also putting herself in a position to also be the heroine that saves her. So like she's like playing, so like she wants to play both roles in her life, getting rid of like these obstacles that would like interfere with them possibly being together, and then also putting herself in a position like, hey, I'm the one that's saving your life. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to like look at like this time while watching it, because she clearly wants to play both roles in Alex's life. She wants to be, the one that protects her, and then the other one that, because she only wants it just to be them and like no one else.
And it really makes you wonder what like Aja's relationship history is like, because it's just like
I know
people are like that in real life, where they're alienating you from friends, family, but then saying, but see, like they're awful, like I'm the good one, so this is kind of a crazy violent horror movie version of that kind of relationship scenario.
And for those listening, like I said, it's hard to talk about the movie without the twist being like
I know
at the forefront of the discussion. The movie's 20 years old, so
that's what's so amazing, I think, about the twist is much like Sixth Sense, much like some of these films with just such a surprising twist, is that then when you talk about it with friends, you can't help but now reframe everything you saw from the twist. You know what I mean? Like it just has to be part of the DNA of talking about it going forward,
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's so like it's
same
Marie
with Psycho, like
same with Psycho.
Same thing. You don't really hear too many people say like, and then Mother killed, so sorry, spoilers from a very old movie.
So while it looks like there is a man who is like attacking this family randomly, like maybe like random serial killer, like we learn later in the movie that it's actually Marie who's been doing this, and she's been the threat the entire time, and this almost like this person, this man that she's kind of created, this manifestation of this like basically anger, whatever it is what we're seeing on screen, but in all actuality it's Marie who's committing like all these murders out of some twisted love and devotion to Alex, because she, like you said, like I think her feelings for her are so repressed that it's got to the point where it's completely broken her mentally, and that's why she's doing the things that she does. And I think that really works. I mean, I haven't had a discussion with someone who in a while who didn't think that ending and twists worked, as I have those conversations in the past, but it's been a while since I've had them. And I'm trying to remember, people were going scene by scene. I remember the time we would argue about why it didn't work for them. And I think it's because they were trying to figure out, okay, well, at what moment is she like, she herself, the man committing the murders, and what point is she, Marie like looking in, trying to help, like what is real and what isn't. And I think a lot of that is, your interpretation of what the scenes are, I guess. I think in certain moments I was able to kind of pinpoint like, okay, this is a break in reality, and this is in her head, and this is what's really happening, and like so on and so forth, depending on what was happening. I know the one moment that still confuses me, because I can't tell when, because it's so separate from the stuff that happens with the girls and the family and everything that transpires after that. There's the one scene early in the movie where the man is in his truck, and it has the girl's head,
and he's using it.
Using it for, just imagine what he could do with just a head, guys. And then he throws the head out the window, out the car window. I was like, what's that? I guess because it's like, because that scene takes place so separate from
because
everything else.
That can't be Marie, because Marie's with Alex in their car on the way to the house. So I just assume that is in her mind. She's daydreaming, because I forget.
She does, because that scene does cut to, because like at first Alex is driving,
Yeah.
And then it cuts to that eventually with the man in the car and the head. And then when we see it again, Alex is asleep in the passenger seat, and now she's driving to the parents' house. So the only thing I can think of is maybe she daydreamed it or it was in her head. But it is it's a weird scene the way it's presented, that because it's so detached from everything else. That was the only scene that was like, I can't tell where that is in her mind, really. I can only assume where it is.
God. And that scene, Gaius, with the head, I remember 18 years old, watching that on the screen. And it's only, I think I looked when I just rewatched it. It's like 7 or 8 minutes into the movie. So it's very early. I remember looking at my friend. I was like, "Oh shit, should we stay? This is already so disturbing." Like I was like, "Oh yikes!" I did not. What do they say? I didn't have that on my bingo card. Like,
at all.
That was a brutal way to meet our killer, quote unquote.
And honestly, he is called the killer in the
and he is scary. The actor that plays him, I have to say, such amazing casting, because he is so freaky. And Aja's team and the DP only showing us bits of him, and we don't really see full face and head until towards the end, once things have shifted.
He gets crazy.
Yes, when he's almost giving me Warwick Davis leprechaun energy of you bitch. But Philippe Nahan, I believe is his name. Man, what a scary actor.
Yeah, you only get sometimes you only get shots of him just from a
lot of nose down, which is terrifying.
And then him breathing all heavy, and that's another one. And then this movie has great sound design, by the way. I mean, as far as I had it playing on my surround sound, and you can hear every creak and movement in the movie, and it's so cool. And just his footsteps around the house are massive.
The house is really interesting as well. The layout and everything. As he's going around doing his business. I mean, when Marie is in the closet and the mom is really getting it, and they lock eyes. I mean, just really interesting set pieces in the house, because it's a normal farmhouse, but the way the door is with the car light, shining. Just, I mean, you can tell Aja. I feel like he probably must have worked on some music videos, because he's just got such a visual style from this to Hills Have Eyes to even Piranha, the Piranha remake.
He did Crawl,
Crawl. Oh my god, was that his last bigger thing? Was Crawl?
I feel like that was the last bigger thing he did.
I'm surprised he hasn't been able to do.
I believe he did. I think he did something with Halle Berry.
Oh, you're right, he did, and no one saw it, including me. Just last year, Never Let Go.
Yeah, that was and no one saw it.
No one saw it, and I was
it flopped.
Curious, which is shocking, because I mean, Halle Berry in a horror thriller, oh my god, sign me up. She rarely does them, but we did not turn up for it. Reviews are okay
for it.
But the Metacritic score for that is higher than High Tension, so I don't know. I would check it out. It's on Stars, but who has Stars?
Yeah, not me.
You? Yeah, not me.
No, I do not.
Gotta borrow someone's login.
It came in with theaters too fast. That's why I didn't see it. But I know, Halle Berry, she did Gothica, so she does Stranger.
Oh she can do some interesting roles. Yeah, so I would totally check the two of them out for sure. Maybe I'll borrow it from the library or something.
Yeah,
I'm glad we.
But he has a really strong visual style. I mean, there was a lot in it that because it's I mean, he has to have it, because the movie's pretty much all action. I mean, like you said, it's not dialogue heavy. It's only dialogue heavy at the start, where we're getting introduced to the characters, and when they get to the parents' farmhouse. And honestly, the dialogue isn't completely enriching either. It's just you're just watching two friends banter in the car.
Very casual. Nothing's important. I would say, I was thinking that because it is so queer, whether Aja and audiences really think about it or not, it really is. It has to be about closeted sexuality, because he even cuts out a picture. He's basically cutting everyone out of Alex's life to take her, so when he cuts out her face and adds it to almost like a teen's wall of cute faces, that's his visor, right? So I mean, but it's just so twisted. And it's funny, I did a brief Google. I don't know how the queer community thinks about this, or if there was really any controversy about that. It seems like no, because it's just so crazy that it's whatever. But I just wonder what queer people would think of this now, you know, much like Psycho, you know, a man
Yeah.
dressed up as a woman, you know, there's always been a lot of queer kind of fear in a way, or just like showing the dark side of queerness in some of these movies.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how that pops out. I have a feeling he probably wasn't like, I highly doubt he's like, yeah, lesbians are bad, you know, but it's just
No,
showing,
yeah,
right? I don't get that sense at all.
right.
But it's just showing how, like, yeah, anyone, male, female, any gender could snap if you're constantly like pushing these thoughts down, you know?
Yeah. I'm gonna try to read. I just found something on Dread Central that the title of it is High Tension is super queer and a little romantic. So like Dread
A
Central
little.
is aware of it
Yeah.
being that kind of movie.
It would
I
have
mean,
been
I wonder if it's
interesting
one of those
if
things that
mom or dad like sort of made a little joke about Marie, like something like,
yeah,
your hair is so short, like I almost thought you were a boy, or like, you know, just something a little like old fashioned that maybe started to make her feel uncomfortable. That could have been
yeah,
interesting because there's really no lines like that from what I remember.
yeah.
But maybe Aja didn't want it to be so in your face, you know, maybe he wanted it to kind of be implied a little bit, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting in this Dress Central article. They said that this movie kind of predates queer horror a bit, where there wasn't really so much of it, like predominantly in like the
Yeah.
mainstream and stuff, and then maybe that's why a lot of people didn't notice it. But
Yeah.
they believe that it is much like you. They believe it is a movie about repressed homosexual feelings, and then that being expressed in a very like intense, you know, violent way. You know, so there's certain scenes that pop more once you know what the twist is. There's that one moment where he's walking through the house, he sees the picture, and he just cracks the frame.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
he's
the way
like
he
so
cracks it.
mad,
Yeah.
and then once you realize that, like, oh, that's her. That's she's just she's mad because like there's other people like in that, you know, and it's her. You know, it's interesting because like I don't know why the family is a threat so much.
I know.
But I mean,
I guess I could
maybe this
understand
is
like dad. I don't know. Like, yeah, well, ultimately, think about it. Like we thought for a long time it's really just a crazy home invasion horror movie, you know? We
right.
just thought like this guy's just going after girls and going from house to house and he's just crazy, right? But then
Yeah,
once you know the twist, it's sort of like I assume, yeah, she's thinking no one else can have her except for me. So I'm getting
yeah.
any, you know, opposing
Anybody.
threat, like, you know, domineering dad or loving mom. Nope, she's mine, you know, much like how we
Yeah,
were just saying, how she wants to cut everyone out and alienate Alex from them because they're dead, to be like, no,
yeah.
I will take care of you now. Like, I'm good. They were gonna get old anyway, or they weren't gonna, you know, love us being
Yeah.
together. See, that's why I just wonder if what if mom and dad were just slightly homophobic to make
Yeah, her kind
Marie
of
be like, okay, you're next, you know?
yeah. Because like, doesn't
Yeah.
the dad say like when they get me like, "Oh, I heard so much about you" or something like that when she
Right.
walks in,
Yeah.
and like she's like, "All good things." I mean, say all good things. I hope something like along those lines.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I could see. I mean, they don't. The parents don't necessarily give off any of those vibes in the
No.
movie. But it's really interesting to like think about. But also, it's just like it could be just like anyone that would like pull away her attention is a threat. Like,
Yeah.
so maybe the issue with the parents isn't that they are homophobic. It's just that, you know, Marie just wants all of Alex to herself.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, she does say that line over and over again, and where she's like, "Won't let anyone come between us anymore." Where she's like repeating it like over and over again at the start of the movie when we meet her at the beginning, and then is again repeating at the end. Like, so by anyone, it's includes her family. I think like, yeah, I think that she wants to be able to just have her to herself,
Right.
because she doesn't know any other way to express it. I that's the only thing I can.
Yeah. And when you think of the little brother, this poor kid who's so innocent, it's sort of like she has to kill him because Alex could get preoccupied with taking care of him, you know, now without parents. And also in the real world, you know, like thinking of even just the male killer, the boy has seen the killer. So it's like, you got to kill the witness, you know? So you got that, but yeah. Oh man, it's bleak. It's so bleak. I don't know what, but just the scene this time on this rewatch where Alex is, you know, she's got the knife now and she's trying to back up from Marie and she's thinking of her family and we see the fast cuts of Marie doing this. Man, it really got me. I was like, oh, this is so twisted. like psycho wishes
and
it was
honestly,
this twisted.
Alex looks. I mean, Marie looks so crazy in that movie, even though she's supposed to be like nice at that point, where she's just like she's so happy that she thinks she saved the day, and like she's like, oh, Alex is, she's like, it's over now. I killed him, and like, and she unties her, and then she's like, if she grabs that knife, she's like, just get the hell away from me, and she's so like. She thinks Alex is going crazy, like like you need to calm down. I love that there are several scenes in the movie where like Alex is clearly, because at first she's gagged, she can't talk. There's certain scenes where like she needs her to be quiet or whatever, right? When they're in the back, they're in the back of the truck together, and she's like, "Hey, you be quiet when they hear you." And I'm just thinking about it in the sense of like, oh, of course, Marie isn't like who we think she is, and like poor Alex. I don't know what we're seeing. It she like, this person either. That's another thing when like Marie's in the back with Alex, and then the killer is driving. I'm like, all right, which of this is happening in real time? Is it Marie driving, and maybe looking back at Alex, and kind of going back and forth with all that stuff, or I think those kind of like things you can dissect and be like, okay, what is real right now and what's not. I thought it was interesting that like what I think is real is the scene where they're driving and he's pouring the liquor in the back and like spilling it on her, and then kind of like scary teasing her with the lit match. I think that is Marie fucking with her in the front seat, with the front seat of the car.
Brutal.
I can see why there are people be like there. It takes a lot to switch to this to kind of figure out like, does this even work, and like why, especially how like. Especially once you have them chasing each other, right? You have the two car, like the scary that kind of truck that he's driving, and then Marie in hot pursuit in her car after the gas station scene. So, I don't know if you have a theory on like what is kind of real, especially in those moments about what we're seeing.
I kind of wish, much like the shots I was just mentioning, where like we see Marie in those quick moments of doing all the killing. I do wish they showed us a couple quick seconds of her driving the car, and like you said, because that I forgot. That's such a sick moment with the liquor and the match, and like just even just pouring anything on Alex is just disturbing. He's playing, she's playing, right? But even seeing like Marie driving, like holding the bottle, and little things like that, I think would have been helpful just to help us piece everything together, but I have a feeling like whenever the car was moving, even though we saw killer in the front and Marie in the back, I think Marie was always in the front, and maybe she would go in and out of like saying like, we need to be quiet, like he's here, like she
kind of like
looking
back at her, like looking back at her, not necessarily with her in the back, but like just looking back at her, and like, which kind of probably would have made Alice be like, what the fuck is going on?
Like, and then a minute later and then like laughing, right? Poor like, Alex, my God. Oh my God.
She goes to the ringer in this, like,
and she's good, man. When she's at the end, when she's crying and screaming and so confused and scared, I mean,
because like all of her intense stuff is like kind of,
and she's kind of scary looking. So like, I don't know. She just adds to the whole vibe, and
she's just like, don't you fucking touch me.
Yes.
But in French.
Exactly.
She just like, and she just has that knife out, and like, she's really good. I mean, most of her heavy lifting is towards the end.
Oh, and I love all the. Really good job. I love how I guess really from the start, it's all very woodsy, but I do love how the big finale, the big climax is in these woods. We went from,
almost like misty, kind of like, because it's going from like night to like early morning, like the transition. So it's visually, it's really interesting. Like that whole sequence is really cool to look at, and it gets
just
pretty
running with the guy, and then back and forth with Marie, and I just love how we got some car stuff throughout. The house, of course, plays a big character, the cornfield, but then, like the last big like chunk is all in these creepy, misty woods that are so spooky. Love it.
I to just go back into some of the house and like how it all kind of kicks off with the dad getting killed first.
Stuff of
all I can think. I can think too. It's pretty late at night, right?
Yeah.
There's no way I'm answering my door when someone's like intensely ringing my doorbell like that.
Oh my God.
Like,
what do you do?
I'm like, because no one I know would like be ringing the doorbell like that, because like he goes, he and she, whatever, goes over and over and over again, and it's so loud. I was like, there's no way I would go down there to go check that out. And he goes alone, but I guess he would. He wouldn't like take his wife with him. But like it's just interesting that that's how it starts, and then he just gets like popped in the face with like is it a hammer, like right in the face with it.
Yeah, something. I know the guy also carries around, which is such a scary weapon, the like blade,
It's like a little switchblade,
like a razor,
like
right?
a razor, yeah. And he always like rubs it against his
very ghost face, like wiping
yeah.
it. He just kind of wipes it on his Michael Myers gas station attendant,
outfit.
Yeah, man, it's brutal. But in my notes I wrote, Alex, I know you have earplugs in, but how do you not hear any of this commotion?
Anything, yeah. There's like she does one of those things where she like they have her turn around in bed like
right.
And she like
she's knocked out.
Like
and the boy, I'm just like the boy didn't like wake up earlier. I mean, he does wake up and mom's like, just go back to your room,
Go back to your room.
But
yeah, it's so loud down there. I'm like,
it's so loud between like you said, the knocking and the buzzing, and then the stuff with dad. But man, mom's reaction, like going downstairs and seeing dead dad, and then the guy just there and the light shining. I do really think her reaction is so interesting, because many other women would be directed or would think like, just start screaming, but she's so shaken.
She's kind of like frozen in fear,
that like she really can't even move. It's and it does sort of make sense with the twist that Marie this whole time is kind of frozen herself. She's upstairs in a room just listening, really not sure what to do, which I think a lot of us would be like, because you'd be weighing so many options, and it makes sense because really she's the one doing all this, but another part of her brain's just upstairs frozen with indecision, so that does make sense. I don't know. I mean, I wish I remembered what I thought of the twist in real time. I think I liked it. I think I was like, oh wow, because it's also such an interesting reveal with the security footage from the convenience store.
And they were going to play that moment, I guess, differently originally.
Oh really?
Let me see if I can pull it up. How they were going to reveal that this was the case, that this is all. He said, according to the director, the screenplay version of the film had the entire movie from Marie's version of events. You didn't find out that she was the killer until the end of the film, after Marie defeats the killer and rescues Alex, when it would cut back to the hospital room and you would see Marie in handcuffs. A police officer would roll in the TV and show Marie the video of her killing the gas station attendant, and as if she wanted to change her story. The real version of events was meant to be another movie entirely. However, when the writers presented the script to Luc Besson, who actually as Maiwenn, the Marie Alex's character, she used to be married to him in real life, who he directed The Professional and some other movies. He convinced them to change the ending to include the last reel of the film, revealing Marie as the killer instead of the last 5 minutes. So it really was like, I guess she was supposed to be telling the story, and they were like, okay, well, here is what really happened. Like, now do you want to change like your story now that we're showing you what you did? So like she was going to originally be shown what she did, rather than like us seeing it on the screen as we saw it, which I don't know which would have been a better
I do
both are pretty interesting.
Both are interesting, but I do think this version's better. I think to wait until the last few minutes to do this twist would really piss people off. Do you know what I mean? I kind of like how it's sort of at the start of the third act in a way. It's not at the very end, I kind of like that, so that then we have time to process it, and now we're rooting not for Marie anymore. We are rooting for just Alex, I kind of like
it's interesting that like Marie is kind of like our de facto hero in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
and it's interesting too, because when I watched it now, I was like, it's so obvious that she is detached from all the action. I mean, like it's like she is in her own, always in her own scenes, really, and never really like kind of like involved in everything. Like almost like she's on the outside looking in. But then we kind of can interpret that as like, oh, like there's scenes where she's hiding, she has to hide, like there's scenes where she needs to make herself scarce because she has to, and and of course, like when you're watching, like, hey, she could be like the the one who gets away, that may be the only one that can help. So I like, there is like a version of that character where you're like, okay, it makes sense that like she's kind of like playing coy, kind of hiding a bit,
right? So I love like the bathroom scene I think it's at the gas station, right? At the convenience store, I think. I love that scene also because, I mean, any good slasher, you kind of need a bathroom scene, right?
Right.
With all the stalls. But like Yeah, we really are rooting for her. We think she is, of course, innocent and our leading lady, which I mean she is, but
Right.
like our girl that we want to survive. That like then when she kind of comes out of the stall and it's very tense, very slow, she's looking around, she comes around the corner, he's gone, and then she drinks water from the faucet. I love this shot because then the camera goes down with her and we're still
Yeah.
with her, no cuts. And I remember, like it's so funny rewatching it last night, I remembered how, oh my God, when I saw this in theaters, I thought I was cringing. I was so tense. I was like, oh my God, he's going to be right behind her.
They're behind her.
She's going to stand up and look in the mirror and he's going to get her,
Yeah.
and I think the music even makes it seem that way. But then when she stands up, he's not there behind her or in front of her or anywhere. And the music kind of like, fades. So I do really love that it's an experiment in expectations and, like the tension, so
Yeah.
for a long time we want her so badly to live. I love that shot when she's really bracing in the van with the knife above her head, thinking like when he comes around she's just going to do it, and I believe that she will, but he doesn't even look. He just slams the door shut and now they're stuck in there, right? So she's kind of doing everything that we realistically would and could do.
And you feel her desperation when the truck drives away, and she's like, "Oh, like now Alex is in the truck alone, right?"
Yes.
So you feel that, and then and then her, you feel her desperation when she calls 911, and she can't.
I love that.
And she can't. And there's that whole back and forth about where are you, like what gas station are you at? Yeah. I just love how I just wonder if like French 911 operators get that mean on the phone, or that is just like in her head too. Like,
well,
they're
French people can be a little blunt, they can be a little rude for sure. Yeah, I've noticed.
She's basically like I do have to blow this place up for you to find out where it is. Like,
yes.
And then like, and when that scene's over, you're like, when you're watching it the first time, you're like, all right, you've tried to get people to help. Now you got to do this all on your own, and that's how you're rooting for her.
Yeah.
In that moment, because even in that moment, you're like, you don't suspect that like anything like crazy or nefarious is going on with her. Like, no, she's the only one that you're thinking like she's the only one that can help her.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so you're like, just do your thing then. If they're
and it's always sad in any good scary movie when like there's a helpful guy, like the guy in the convenience store who's listening to her. She's hiding. He notices the killers, now that when the killer's in like the bloody hands, like he's a great actor. He has a small part, but his eyes are doing the work, and oh God, and then the
axe. It's intense, I guess, really fucking intense the way that because like it's the intensity of how it's shown, and then like the killer just like yelling and grunting as he's like doing it. I do want to ask you how you think that scene transpired, because she runs in there, and I like when I was watching it, I was like, all right, is part of the scene like she runs in there and it looks like she needs help, and then her hiding isn't so much like her anymore. Like I don't know what is supposed to be real there either, because I was like, because like the interaction with the killer and him, and
that must all just be in her head.
And he says his name is Jimmy, but he does have a little tiny name tag on his shirt that says Jimmy on it. So I was like, all right, well that's how he knows the gas station attendant's name is Jimmy. So because at first I was like, when I was watching, I was like, how do you know his name is Jimmy? And when they cut back to him like just standing there, you could see it on his shirt. So I was like, all right, so he's on his shirt, so maybe that is an interaction.
Maybe she noticed it earlier. I guess it's really two options, right? Like option one is she goes into the store, she's panicked, she's telling him what's going on, and then like she just goes to hide. There is no talking to the man. He then but then he walks over to okay, I guess the only option really is she's talking to him as Marie, and then she must switch. Yeah. And now this guy's freaking out.
Like maybe she never really hides. Like maybe she wasn't. So I'm just wondering,
because in the security footage, he's there at the glass door with the liquor, and then she comes running up.
And there's no one. There's no one standing behind him. He just kind of comes up. She comes out of nowhere from behind, and
So
she had to have asked for the liquor. I just wonder if if maybe the start of it when she runs in and he's all like, and she's panicking and he's all like Mademoiselle and all that stuff. Like, is that true?
So
that's real.
You bring up a good point. Yeah, is that real? So is innocent Marie real at all? And if so, then that means there's this poor gas station guy is seeing the personality switch. Marie to killer.
Because honestly, the dialogue exchange would be confusing for him.
Oh yeah,
because like if you're seeing someone like Marie the girl suddenly asking him questions about like all the girls that come through there and how many girls that he must like get that come through that gas station, like just this kind of like dirty, kind of vile like exchange between them.
Again, the
like,
sexuality, right? All these old rich women, they must want you. They must ask for your services, and he's like, huh? Right?
And I agree with you. That's why I think that it is this kind of like repressed thing with her, like and using this kind of manifestation to express all these things. Because even when she's fighting with herself, right? So there's like that whole fight scene at the end is in her head, because like, she ain't fighting nobody. Unless she's fighting like her homosexual thoughts. I don't know if that's what that's supposed to be. What it is, right?
She's batting them away.
That even is dirty. Like when he like has her on the ground, he like puts his finger in her mouth. He's like this Alex turn you on, and like because Alex turns me on, and like he's like forcing his fingers in her mouth, and like so like it is this kind of like, it feels like this is battle between this version of her that doesn't want to accept that, and this other version of her that is that, but like it shouldn't be expressed in that way. Like, she's kind of manifested as this like bad thing when it doesn't really need to be a bad thing. But it is this bad thing for her because she hasn't really, expressed it in a very normal, healthy way.
Right.
So, like,
and it's making me,
a lot of that is.
This conversation is making me love this movie even more, because I wonder actually if this is sort of, if Aja got this idea, since he wrote it as well, if he got this idea because we were so used to, for years and years, and still to this day even, but especially in 2003, 2004, so used to the virginal, nice final girl. So he's like, well, what if the virginal final girl has repressed sexual thoughts and wants to be a freak, and is a freak, so that's really interesting and very clever, and not something that many people obviously then were thinking of, and even today still thinking of, where it's like, well, what if this final girl actually does have sexual thoughts and they will disturb the F out of you,
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a lot to kind of like dig into as far as like the psychological elements of it. I also I'm typing up, trying to pull up stuff as we're doing this. Some people did not like that, and this is like people have written stuff in like recent years about the movie, that it kind of, they felt like it villainized queer characters in a bit, and like they don't think that is a good representation of, especially in this day and age. I can see why that would be the case.
I mean, I get it. That's what I was thinking of earlier. Like, I wonder what, but like as a queer filmmaker, and some of my films, I won't say which ones in case you or people listening want to watch and don't know the ending, but like I've had like a queer character or two do some bad things, but I'm queer. I mean, I'm not saying anything like, negative about the community. I think it's all in the name of a good horror twist and representation, no matter what, so I don't think that's what we were saying. Like, I don't think Aja's like saying like, ooh, lesbians are crazy, not all lesbians. But like, I think it's just, he wanted to show, we have such a gross guy in the typical slasher outfit, right? A Michael Myers gas station uniform, a beard, he's grunting. What if that's actually the real version, the mental version of this cute, pretty blonde girl, So, it's the animals inside, rather than what your sexuality is if you're killing people, I don't know. I don't think it's anything to really, I personally don't think it's that controversial. I think it's just a fun, interesting twist on, let's be honest, the horror genre can sometimes, from Psycho to Dress to Kill to a lot of, Sleepaway Camp for sure, for better or worse, the horror genre does give twists that can be transphobic, queerphobic, but I don't think this is queerphobic. I think it's just a fresh way to
I don't think
tell
so
the story.
either. I mean, this one person wrote that the movie emerged during a time, the early 2000s were a very weird time to grow up gay ends. Sure, we had Queer as Folk, the L Word, and the gay cinema of the 90s, but that was about all we had. Primetime TV was so full of lazy, homophobic jokes and a complete lack of believable queer characters. If you were anything but 100% gay or lesbian, you were simply not part of the equation. And most movies and TV shows still couldn't resist the urge to throw in a fun man in the dress joke or two. The world, as I remember it, from 2000 to 2010, was an extremely homophobic one in the truest sense of the word. Phobia, as in fear, deep and primal, and that is the world that High Tension exists in. I was like, I think it's interesting. I don't think it runs that deep, but I can understand how someone might think it does run that deep. But I don't think that was the intention behind what they were writing and what they were, as director, what he was presenting either.
Yeah. I think it's all about the expectation, like what we've been saying. He just wanted to really surprise the crowd, and whether you love it or hate it, I think you have to admit it's a bold surprise, and the way it's revealed, so cool, so interesting for me.
Yeah, this person even said that it's a movie like High Tension actually homophobic. That seems too simple. Explanation. You can look at the final twist at the end and read it as more transphobic than lesbophobic. But the fact that Marie justifies her murder spree by saying that she loves her friend and wants nothing to keep them apart points to a much more common narrative of the early aughts, is that lesbians love too much. It makes them crazy, and then they kill people. Monster, the Eileen Wuornos biopic, came out the same year. So did Party Monster, which told the story of the queer club kid killer Michael Alick. A year later, the play Doubt opened off Broadway, and the History Boys opened its West End run. Gay people were either killers or pedophiles or victims, all three. Sometimes maybe, but you couldn't be anything else. It is a good, interesting way to think of it. I don't think they wrote it that way, though. I mean, if anything, I think that what's going on here is just a metaphor for what can happen if you repress these kind of it's interesting because we talked about this in a different way when Jackson and I covered the Virgin Suicides, where that movie feels like a total what those girls are going through in that movie is because they come from a very stifled religious background where they are told not to express their sexuality, and that is why these things are happening to them in the movie, right? They are so repressed that they don't really know what to do with these feelings and emotions, and that what that movie kind of represented for me. And I feel like this is what this is too, a very extreme example of that, but it kind of shows what it can be very dire if you repress those kind of feelings. And I think that's what especially if you feel like this is who you really are, then it can become a very emotionally devastating thing to someone who just wants to be themselves and feel like they can't. So I think this is the horror genre is known for commentary like this. And I think that this is what the comment. And now I've never heard the director or anyone talk about that commentary being the case. That would have been very interesting to kind of, if that was there.
I need to see if I can't remember if I own this on DVD, but now I want to see if there's a commentary, a track from the director, because I feel like he hasn't really talked a lot about how he got this idea and what he was trying to say, but it is very interesting to think about the time period and how it's still, we had the gay kiss on Dawson's Creek a few years prior that just turned 25, so that was about 3 to 4 years before this came out. So we had some moments, but it was still like I just remember in high school, people would say gay meaning bad or stupid, oh, that's gay, so dumb. So we still were in a not so friendly time. So it is interesting to put this in that time period, and how you were saying how that person was quoted, monster and party monster. How funny, monster and party monster. But how queer people, for better or worse, usually worse, would deal with their awful issues with violence in some of these films. So I think that's a really interesting context. But again, I don't know. I could just be optimistic. I don't think Aja is saying anything beyond whoa, here's a twist. And it's I assume he's straight. It's a straight man's idea of what repressed sexuality could be. And I think it's a pretty interesting story.
And you have this stuff towards the end where he, I think he's saying to you, he says to her, or she's saying to her, you could drive a man crazy, you slut. But when we see her saying that, it's through the man's point of view, it's through the killer's point of view, or saying. And I think a lot of that is, at the beginning, we have her talking to her about scampering off to hook up with that guy, and like she seems very upset that like she went off and did that. And she left her to go like hang out and hook up with someone else. It's almost like she kind of believes like in the worst part of herself that like she's angry at her for being promiscuous because she's not being like promiscuous with her. Right, and like there's kind of like there's like this like there's a lot of like layers to it. I think that people maybe don't give it credit for.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what the issue is, and we love horror movies, and this is a staple of like a lot of horror movies. I think people might miss that point because a lot of the negative reviews I've read, other than hating the ending, have a lot to do with how violent the movie is. Like they focused on that almost entirely. How like it was just too violent. It is gruesome, but I don't think it's any more gruesome than a lot of horror movies that emerged during that time. And also foreign horror films tend to be a little bit more violent. They don't really skim away from that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, European horror, French films already are pretty extreme, as this movie is part of the new French extremity list, which is just funny, But I think the violence is really, it's tough. Like I can't deal with much more, but this was that time. And I mean, like we started with, it was I think an answer to a little bit of censorship and awareness of violence. So now there was just this shift in, well, now we're just going to go really rough and really hardcore. And it's hard. Like a lot of this isn't for everyone, of course. And it certainly isn't even for every horror fan. Like there are times when I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I can handle this, So, but real quick, I wanted to say, like, it's funny how, when you said like how the male killer is saying to Alex, promiscuous, and how you had a good point that like, I'm mad that not only are you promiscuous, you're not promiscuous with me. It's sort of like Aja's new version of like, and I just saw this in theaters because we just had Friday the 13th, but like the original Friday the 13th and movies like that, it was all about if you had sex, right? It's what Scream told us. If you had sex, if you do drugs, you die, right? Well, what if you have sex, but you're not having sex with me? You die, right? So it's a new twist to that classic horror trope. So he's respecting horror, but he's given us a surprise and some changes, which is the whole point, So I don't know. I think it's pretty smart. I think it's pretty interesting. But don't get me wrong. Every movie, I know there's lots of movies where there's like the twist where like, oh, you were the killer. It was you the whole time. Sometimes it is disappointing, but I think without it, this sort of just becomes another home invasion, man going after women. You know what I mean?
And it could have been enjoyed on like a visceral, like entertaining level, but it would have been much more than that. It would have been like, oh, like,
I think it would only be known for its violence, whereas this is known for its violence. And it's brilliant.
And I agree with you that like, the original ending that they kind of had, I think it was best that they kind of telegraphed that a lot earlier than they would have, instead of doing it in the last few minutes, because I don't know how I would have felt. Like it sounds interesting reading it that way, where it's like having them wheel in like are you sure you don't want to tell us like the real story, and then having them show it. Maybe if they would have cut it together really cool, and like it would have been really cool to kind of see it in those final moments. But it might have felt like a cheat at the end, like because if it ended that way, I would have like whoa wait what just happened. You're right. You get time to like. I mean, not a ton of time, but you get more time to digest it.
You get time to digest and to still root for a proper ending. Yeah, it doesn't feel. It doesn't really feel gimmicky or anything. Like it could have been if it's in the last couple minutes. Where it's like, what? Yeah. I could just imagine people in the crowd being like, "Are you kidding me?" And then credits roll. You're like, "Oh, come on," because the movie did get. You probably saw this too. I think it did get a C- cinema score, which. Is not amazing. That's not so great, So I think if we did get that original idea of the twist in the last minute or two, oh God, I think it would have been worse, right?
Yeah. I think people would have been more up in arms about it because like having that moment like right before the credits roll, you're like, like that's how people would have felt,
right? Oh yeah, it just feels like you really tricked me, Whereas now, all right, you tricked me, so now who am I rooting for and like what's gonna happen now, which I think is good, and it's just such a good example in my opinion of the whole show and tell philosophy where with film you don't want to tell too much because then that's a lot of talking, a lot of exposition, it gets boring, it's anticlimactic. So I don't know. I just think it's great to finally, the cops are finally making an effort. They go to the store, they're playing the footage, and we know something might be up. And then all of a sudden, oh man, you see her come out swinging, and then she's kind of looking like weird. Like this is the first time we're seeing the
it's
real
almost
her.
like the way her head like twists
Yeah,
around. It's
she's
almost
sort
like
of
she
like, you know,
snapping in and out of it, and
yes.
and they have her look at the camera at the like at one point where it's like it's so like it really is like her having like an outer body experience like in real time. Like I thought that was really cool. That's how they showed it, and like having it being shown on the kind of grainy kind of like security footage was really
a
well
great
done
visual,
too.
right?
Yeah, that was really well done. I do remember being in the theater and like there was like genuine like gas, and I do remember though two of my friends being like kind of like what the fuck, and then when and then like when it was over, they were just kind of like didn't buy it. But I think this is one of those movies that I wonder if they were to go back and watch it like almost immediately, and like kind of like, all right, I know the twist now. Like, now that I know it, does this all work? If you would have watched it like right away instead of just being like, no, based on what I've just seen, it doesn't work. Like on one viewing, it's kind of like I don't think it's fair. To really kind of like dismiss it that way. Based on like the one viewing, like like I said, watching it for this, I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it in the sense of like, does this work knowing what we know? And you can and watching it, you can almost even like identify the almost like mental cuts a bit where like, okay, this is where she goes in and where she goes out. Like you said, the whole masturbation scene is like really just like a set off for her to like I guess snap, and that's why and that's why he murders, right? It's like right after all that, and I think it gets triggered even at when she's sitting on the swing just staring at Alex like take a shower in the that's where it kind of that's why you get a hint of like the truck pulling up almost after that moment, and like but it's not fully there yet because she hasn't fully gone there yet, so like it makes a lot more sense once you know it and like look at the scenes from that angle a bit.
Agreed.
But I can totally see why it's frustrating because it is like it's it does. I mean, I don't think like Roger was saying like the plot hole is so big you can drive a truck through it. I don't think it's like that.
I mean, maybe because of my age. I mean, we were young, so like I don't know. I found this to be also like pretty influential, even just for me and my like scary ideas. So maybe if we were older and we see this wildly violent movie that then does this kind of wild twist, like would we be annoyed? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's really a movie for a younger crowd that is more open to such twists and turns. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I can understand why people don't like it, but I totally understand why people like it. I think it's a pretty interesting movie. It's just, oh man, I don't need to see this again for a while.
No, it is one of those. It's pretty much like I could tuck it away for a bit. I hadn't watched it in forever.
And I just rewatched it. I should know this, but remind me. He kills everyone and everything in the house, but is the bird still alive? Because they have that bird.
I think the bird survives.
Okay.
I didn't see the bird die. Yeah, the dog, unfortunately. Thankfully, we don't really see it.
I know. Oh, thank God we don't see.
We hear a little bit like it's
and
not
then we
making noise.
see the body
it's thrown on the floor.
Yeah. You don't want to. No one wants to see. Oh God, a dog. Like actually being hurt. Oh my, that's too much.
Especially one that looks like Beethoven. It was the Saint Bernard. So like comes from the movie.
But it's funny because I asked because in one of my next shorts that I'm going to make that I've had this idea for a long time. It's actually a small chunk of a story that I've written already, but I'm kind of reusing it. There is a bird, and maybe I was influenced by High Tension. You never know. But there is a bird flapping around at home during this crazy moment, and so I was like, wait, does that bird die?
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like it's pretty. Oh, I was also reminded when the way he puts the dad's head through the, I guess it's the stair thing. I was like, I know like this movie came out years later, but I remember there's a similar moment in Halloween Kills where he puts the
you're so right,
and I was like, I was like immediately thought of that. I was like, because that's brutal in general. Like, I mean, I was like, what can be done, right? I mean, in Halloween Kills, he just kind of like basically kicks him down through the thing, right? And like it just kind of
how does the boyfriend
like, almost like crushes him a bit like through it, and like and then he takes his head and I think he like twists it or something like that. Right. And this like pushing that.
Oh God.
Also, I would love to know where Marie's getting all her like epic strength from too, because I'm assuming that like she's moving all these heavy objects, like she full on knocks the guy's head off.
Yeah, that's true. And
Yeah.
as he's doing that, she's trying to move the heavy like
that way, and
wardrobe.
she can't do it. Like
That's
it's like
so
it's all,
interesting.
yeah.
I kind of missed that juxtaposition. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
It's sort of, this is kind of crazy, but maybe actually it is less about her being gay, and maybe she might still be gay, but maybe she does view herself as a man. Maybe it actually is a trans story.
Which should be why some people think it's transphobic too.
Right. Like that's actually, the more I think about it, I mean, she envisions herself as a real tough, hairy man moving things around.
Like brute and like, like
brute,
very much
like grunt, like what we're saying, like a beast. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm just wondering, is it less about sexuality, more about gender? I don't know. And who knows, maybe Aja 20 plus years ago, maybe he didn't really know exactly what it was about, as he's writing it, because we didn't know as much then, about those two things, about gender.
And I do think it was interesting what kind of eventually calms her down at the end is when she's going back and forth. I think she says like, "You don't love me," and she's like screaming at her like, "No, I do love you. I do." Like she's trying to like talk her down.
Yeah.
And she keeps, as the man, she keeps saying like, you don't. And then when it cuts back to her as Marie is when she's kind of like giving in and like kneels down close to her as if like she believes that maybe that she might love her, which is why she gets close enough that Alice can like, I think that's a crowbar, right? Like she shoves a crow. I don't know how she survives either. Marie gets stabbed at least twice. And,
I know. And that's brutal too. Yeah.
And then she gets a crowbar, like she gets impaled with a crowbar and survives. But I thought that was interesting too. When it's a switch, is like the whole like you don't love me is when she's like the killer, the man. And then it almost like when she finally is convinced by her words, and then it cuts back to her, she's Marie, and that's when she feels comfortable enough to get close to her and kneel down close enough to her, like she almost like she believes it. Yeah. And then of course Alice is like, "Psych, impale you with a crowbar because this is what you deserve." I know those last few moments are like really well done. I thought I could have done with more of them switching back and forth between Marie and the killer. They do it like not a lot during the whole chase, where you have him chasing her with the the electric saw or whatever, and then it goes from him doing it, and then you see her doing it. It doesn't really happen a lot, but I thought that was really
cool
effective. They did that. Yeah. And just like the way that it visually, it just looks cool too. Like I said, it's that point in the morning where it's like super, super early in the morning where like it's like foggy and misty out. Like it's a really like interesting time to like kind of craft a little like horror chasing like that.
All those choices make us feel even more for Alex because she's been up all night, like stressed out of her mind.
It's disorienting a little bit
too, and then also like we see her point of view, which is Marie chasing after her. But then we're still seeing Marie's point of view as the man. So it is interesting and sort of, I don't want to say new, but not done often. So I could understand how maybe some purists or some people just weren't digging it, but I think it's pretty fresh. I have to say, I thought it was really scary. It is so scary. Like I said, with the bathroom scene, all along, I was so tense during this movie. Which is the goal.
and then when you first see it, you're like, and then you watch it, you're like, man, I didn't have to be worried about you at all. Like you're like you were the threat the entire time. They're also this movie actually helped me discover Muse as well. There's the song "Newborn" that plays during the whole chase is like, I was like, I remember when I saw this in the theater, I was like, who is this? And
my gosh, that's
how I discovered Muse and like ended up seeing them in concert 2 or 3 times, I think.
Oh, nice.
And they are really good live. But this was my first exposure to.
And do we know, are they French or was that just?
I think because they were formed in let's see, Matthew Bellamy is English, so I mean the lead singer. So I'm assuming that.
Maybe British. Okay, British, okay, all right, because I was just curious because I had heard of them before this. I remember they were on like other soundtracks for other movies. So it's great.
It's really well done, and I enjoyed it. There's one more point I wanted to make before we do our score, but like They said that several viewers have noticed striking similarities between the plot of the film and the plot of Dean Koontz' novel Intensity.
Oh, yeah.
And they said when questioned at the Sundance Film Festival in 2004, the director acknowledged that he had read the novel and was aware of the similarities. On his website, Koontz stated that he was aware of the comparison but would not sue because he found the film so puerile, so disgusting, and so intellectually bankrupt that he didn't want the association with it that would inevitably come if he pursued an action against the filmmaker. The plot of the novel is just that it involves a college student named China Shepherd who is forced to fight for her life when targeted by a serial killer, with chapters alternating between each character's perspective. I don't know if it doesn't switch like that, like that this movie does.
Interesting.
But
now I kind of want to read it.
Yeah, but I guess enough for people to point out, like, oh, this sounds like very similar.
That's so funny. I
love how he didn't want to sue him because he didn't want to be associated with it. He's like, no, whatever. I don't want that my name to be associated with something so vile and disgusting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and also it's just funny that his book was called Intensity, and then here we have Haute Tension. So that is funny. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was just so much hate. It just makes me sad because it's like there was also such clever storytelling here,
I think so too. But I think this is one that people might appreciate more now than they did then.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think that also I kind of forget how like the mid 2000s was a really violent time for horror movies. I really like this was like
because Hostel was about to come out a couple years later.
we were getting into like the Saw, Hostels, you said the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, Aja's own like Hills Have Eyes remake, but it's like a year after the US release of this, so like it it was a pretty violent time. I don't know if I necessarily miss it. I mean, I do think there is a place where it's kind of like viscerally like violent horror movies because they can be done well, and I referenced the Hills Have Eyes remake because I think that is a violent movie. I think done really well though. I think it's like executed well.
I think it's better than the original from what I remember.
Think so too. I mean, I remember just like the attack on like the mobile home is like much better than it is in the original too, and like you actually feel free. Someone put on X that a character said that they cared about the most of the horror film was actually Vanessa Shaw's character in The Hills Have Eyes, because like you have someone that has like a gun to a baby's head while he's like sucking the breast milk. It was
shocking. It was shocking. I know, and it was like, oh my god, that's the actress from Hocus Pocus and Ladybugs. This is so wrong. Which again is great casting. Aja knows how to use actors in interesting ways that's really gonna burn in our brains.
Yeah. And then you have friends who are like, how the fuck y'all watch this? Who the fuck writes this?
Oh, I know.
People that don't like these movies are like, I mean, this is exactly why, people like Roger Ebert didn't like them, because they're, he thinks that they're just like, reprehensible, like vile pieces of garbage.
It is interesting seeing his career. He's not, I guess as he's gotten more and more famous and has had more and more hits, his films haven't been as hardcore and gross, so I guess that's just how it goes, where once your movies are being seen by a wider audience and you're becoming a bigger name, you kind of need to play to the wider audience, but he's very talented. I've always and this not only really got me interested in his work and really put him on my radar, but it also really like opened my eyes to more European horror, French horror.
No, that's the same for me too, because I didn't grow up on a lot of European. I mean, everyone's always shocked because they're like, you love the horror genre, but it was a part of the genre that I never really got into until seeing stuff like this. And then I had friends who actually, then you should watch this, and like when you watch that, watch this. Like, so it really wasn't until this movie that I got into more like. I
still haven't watched European a lot of films. French horror from this time because I'm kind of scared and worried, but it's been on my list for a long time. I do want to watch Inside, which is like a Christmas horror movie, and a few other things from this era. But this definitely got me interested in more than just American or North American horror, I should say.
I mean, they know how to like freak us out. I mean, I think it's something like, this isn't French, but when I think about like the movie Audition, I remember when I first saw that.
Oh my god!
And that movie is like, I don't want to say nothing. It is so like it's just like a regular thing until it's not. I just remember being like, I
What a
remember
shift.
being at first kind of bored. I was like, all
Yes,
right,
I was bored, and I just saw this for the
hyping
first
movie
time
up.
only a couple years ago. So yeah, I am right there
Yeah,
with you. I was kind of
I
bored, like,
remember
all right,
like,
this is
what?
slow. When does
Yeah,
it get
and
like
then but
scary?
when it gets to
Oh
where it needs to
God.
get to, it's like, all
Then
right, all
once
right.
once it gets there, you're like, oh God, please. I wish I never asked for scary
Yeah,
stuff,
for
you know?
more, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a prime example of like, don't fuck with anyone's emotions and feelings, man. I mean, you will get rocked in like the worst kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they've been trying to work on like a American remake of that for a while, and they're still trying
Which could be interesting. I don't know, maybe because it is a
I
little
wonder if
slow.
we would dilute it though. I wonder if we would dilute like the
I
stuff
guess I don't know anymore. Maybe. I mean, I feel like some cinema is still really extreme. I haven't seen what's this one that everyone's been talking about, the stepsister. What is it? Is it the ugly stepsister, or it's like
I
the
think I know what you're talking about, like that.
have you
Because it
seen
just
it?
came out, right? No,
Yeah.
I've heard of it though.
I know
I think I know.
apparently it's like some gross body horror. So,
Yeah,
the ugly
we're
stepsister.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
getting a lot of that lately too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
the Substance
Oh
that
yeah.
together is
Mm-hmm.
coming out soon. Like,
Oh yeah, together.
yeah,
That does look good, although that has controversy as well.
yeah, but Neon is staying so behind it that I kind of don't
Okay.
think I don't believe that they believe that it was stolen from anyone else. You know, I think there is. I mean, I think we kind of can see that in our own lives. Like, there might be situations where you might have had an idea in your head, and
Yeah.
then someone puts that out, and you're like, oh, well, that's
It's
kind of like the
happening to
idea
me
I had.
more and
That's how,
more, where like I have
yeah,
ideas and then all of a sudden a movie comes out. I'm like, shit, that was my idea. Like I just
yeah,
read it the other
yeah,
day. I'm like, oh, you're kidding. And am I gonna
yeah,
sue? No, because I know they didn't see it because I haven't even written it. It's just been in my
yeah.
head. So sadly,
Now,
we
yeah,
do just, there are so many people on earth and there are only so many good ideas. So
yeah.
sadly,
Now this guy has a whole backstory where he said he tried to offer it to Dave Franco and all
right.
them and all that. So there's that little tidbit that they haven't
Yeah,
really
that's interesting. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I think it is possible to have like a similar idea and then someone
Right.
beats you to it.
Yeah,
That's very
totally.
interesting.
But no, that trailer is so good. So,
Yeah.
and I love Dave Franco. I love them both, but Dave Franco, I just think is a really interesting guy and can do horror,
we need one
drama.
normal Franco. So
Yes, yeah, right? Yeah, so that's coming up soon. Yeah.
Alrighty. So this is gonna be interesting. I was trying to figure out. I've been thinking about how I was gonna score this movie. Kind of figuring what do you where you landing out, Adam? Where you as far as your score for High Tension?
I was just looking at my notes, just thinking of a number. I mean, I think it's really good. Like, there's a reason why when you messaged me, which I love that you messaged me because you saw that I posted it. I just think that's perfect synergy. When you messaged me, I was immediately excited to talk about it because I knew that it's so scary, so memorable, and there's actually a good amount of stuff to talk about with this crazy movie. You know, so I don't know. I would say, I'm always a nice critic, but at the very least, like a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. I feel like that's even kind of low. I mean, for what this movie is, for the exactly what it was marketed as, and what it ends up being, at least that. So maybe even a 4.5. I'm not saying it's one of my all-time favorites of all time, but it delivers for me.
It's not one of my all-time favorites either, but like it was one of the things where we were talking about it, and I was kind of like at the beginning, kind of like landing on a 4.
Yeah.
And then the more we talked about the themes and what was going on in the movie, I was like, oh, this might a little better than I am giving it credit for. And that's why I kind of I'm fine with giving it a 4.5, only because like it feels like there's more to it than
There's
it
actually
being like a
some
simple
thought,
slasher movie or
And even if there maybe wasn't a lot of thought in writing the script, I feel like it just so happens to be, because sometimes that happens, where we think like, oh, they really were clever with that, and sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't even think about that. It just happened, So whether he was intentionally clever with some of these other layers and levels of things, or if it just was sort of in his subconscious and it came out, no matter what, I think you can talk about this longer than a lot of other movies. So I'm glad you agree. I feel like 4.5 feels pretty good. 5 is maybe a little too crazy. Again, I wouldn't really change much at all. Very, very minor few things. But 5s are for the special ones. This isn't on that list for me.
Yeah.
but it is stuck in my brain for a reason.
I could find it if if you had ever had a conversation with the director. I was like, all right, I need to know who's who when they're in the truck, or what's going on in the gas station for sure. I just need you to fill in these little crevices that I'm not really sure how they work.
It could have been, really interesting in a quick flash. Man, this is actually, I like this idea. Maybe others out there wouldn't, but it could have been interesting if, especially during that chase when she's going in and out of herself and the killer guy.
Yeah.
What if we also saw quick flashes to her through the years, killing other women, chasing other women?
Oh yeah, this is not the first time this has happened.
Yeah, seeing Alex run, but then we're seeing a blonde girl run and a black girl. I don't know, just different girls.
That's interesting too, because unless she's just framing herself to be this kind of angry male serial killer, the idea of her collecting the pictures, because she puts Alice's picture, there's a bunch of them in the car, that made me think for a moment that this is not the first time this has happened with her. So and even though it's a brief little thing in the car, where it's just these pictures of all these random girls,
right?
That gave me the impression that this is not the first time this has happened. So
I'm right there with you. I think that too. But again, I think we think that because of the first scene with the guy with the head, which we know could not have really been happening unless it was a memory of her doing that. It's so tricky. So maybe she actually hasn't killed other people, but she just has her fantasy visor in this car. Either way, and then the ending. That last shot of her reaching out.
Oh, and she's she can't see me, can't she?
It's spooky.
Spooky. Yeah. I do kind of it ends on that just little note. I do remember that being frustrating to people in the audience too. That's it. Yeah.
But I like it because this is of an era where a lot of these horror movies didn't really know how to end. I love The Strangers, which came out a few years after this, but the way The Strangers end,
wrap it up.
I'm just I'm also just what? It cuts to black. Well, what happens? So some of these movies didn't really know how to end, but I like this ending. How it just shows she's crazy. She knows you're there. She still wants you, and will not stop thinking about you.
About you. Yeah. She is apparently locked in her craziness of
talk about hard eyes. This is very much a Valentine's horror movie. It really is. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we both enjoyed it, and I'm glad you were able to talk to me about it.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on as always. Always so fun. What was the last one? We did Gossip, and before that was
The Skulls.
Oh, The Skulls, of course.
And we'll tease a little something. It'll either be just me and Mark doing Scary Movie, or me, Mark, and Jackson doing Scary Movie. It depends on I don't know what our picks officially are going to be for Back to Blockbuster, and which ones we're going to kind of do as deep dives. But either way, Scary Movie is one I want to do. No matter what.
If you want me, I'm back. I love that, and I told you, I sadly won't be able to fit it on my show, which is just crazy, but. God, it's so good. So let me know. That'd be fun if Jackson's back.
You're probably doing Clueless, aren't you?
Oh, I'm definitely doing Clueless. Are you guys doing Clueless?
That was one I wanted to pick for sure as my pick for July.
It's just such a big movie in our lives.
I kind of want to make Jackson watch it because I don't think he's
has he never seen it.
I think he missed out on all those and that movie is before all these movies we were showing him lately, right before the Can't Hardly Wait and 10 Things I Hate About You. What I'm really hearing though is it's so very much a LA. I mean, you're not really
no, I'm not an LA person, but I
it's very totally LA specific in his jokes and stuff. But
But I love that. I love any movie where there's a strong sense of place. It's one of the main reasons why I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we've talked about, is and that's why I'm excited for the new movie, much like my fan film, to bring it back to Southport, because I love these movies where it's a strong sense of place. It feels so lived in. It feels so real, So that's back. Clueless is back in theaters this weekend, Sunday, Monday for me here. Fathom is doing it. So
nice.
There might be some theaters out there doing it. I'm just kind of lame, and I'm like, okay, this is a 30-year-old movie. Do I really have to pay full price to see it? Can it just be $10? I really have to pay $18 in New Hampshire? Come on.
You want to pay $19.95 prices.
Right. I'm like, can it just be a $5 special? It's also that's streaming, hilarious. But I've never seen it on the big screen, so I have to, But really cool. I'm definitely going to talk about Clueless. I have ideas for my other episode. Plus, I'm behind, so we'll see what I can even get to. But let me know when you want to talk Scary Movie, because I love that. Marlon Wayans is doing his he's on tour, and he's doing a show here in Portsmouth this Friday in New Hampshire, which I was
nice.
I don't know if I can go, but I am very tempted because I love him. He's great, you know.
Very cool.
So
well, this episode will drop actually this Friday as a recording.
Oh my gosh, fast!
Very fast. So what can you tell anyone about your show and what's coming up?
This is great motivation for me. Like I told you, I'm like I'm behind. I've had like life stuff going on and summer brain and oh my god. And I know you guys don't really edit this show, but editing is like the slowest part. But the brand new episode. Literally, like it's gonna be out, I swear. And if it's not, I'm gonna punch myself. I just released House of Wax, the 2005 20-year-old Paris Hilton movie, which I love. I love that you guys talked about it too. So that's finally out. Next up will be the 85 double feature of The Goonies and Return to Oz, and then Jaws.
Nice.
I was just in Martha's Vineyard for the big Jaws 50th anniversary party, which was huge. Oh my god, the island was packed with Jaws fans. So
Very
Jaws
cool.
is a big one. So those are the next ones coming up, and then we'll get to Clueless and some others. But like you said, this summer 2025, the amount of big anniversaries is overwhelming. Wow.
Yeah, I didn't think July was going to be that rough, and then I was like, oh, yeah, it is.
My list is long. Oh my god, I'll look at it after I'm done talking to you, and I'll just keep bolding names that I really want to talk about, but I won't have time to. You know?
Yeah, it sucks where you can't do them all. Yeah, because you want to, and then you're like, oh, I can figure out a way to do them later. But like, it's
just there's no time. Yeah.
I was surprised on House of Wax that Jackson actually enjoyed it more than I thought. He had seen it before, but he hadn't watched it in a while, and I was expecting him to like kind of like
snub his nose.
But no, he didn't rip. He didn't rip it as much.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. I think it maybe it's I don't know. I think it's great. I think it's scary. I think it's fun. I think people just kind of ripped it apart a bit because of Paris Hilton, and at the time, being on The Simple Life, which I loved, and kind of being the mockery of, let's face it, a lot of like sexist jokes, a lot of like, it's all because of that sex tape, like I think she just got a bad rap.
And I think oddly enough, I think people appreciate her contribution to that movie more now than they did then. Like, that movie got shouted out a lot on its anniversary, I saw, and her chase scene being one that got shouted out the most. It is a fun little scene. Moment.
Oh, it's scary,
and she leaned into it back when she promoted it back in the day. So like see Paris die thing that she was doing. That was smart. Yeah, you have to be in on the joke, because she's like, everyone doesn't like me, I know.
Right. So, like, and I was just listening to an old episode of Paris's podcast in preparation for me editing the episode, because I got to do my intro and outro after this. But and she had Alicia Cuthbert on, and Alicia even said at the premiere, once it was Paris's big death scene, the crowd went wild. They were cheering for her death, and she stood up and like clapped and like waved to everyone and smiled, like she was in on it. She was in on the joke. So that's pretty cool, because I think it was Alicia said that director, who I love his work too.
His first movie was like Wame,
Colette Sarah. He was worried that Paris wouldn't. He knew that she was going to be the focus and that people wanted her to die, and he was worried that she maybe wasn't going to be able to handle it, but she did. She had a major sense of humor, so it makes me really appreciate her even more, so I love it.
And it was that last wave of like kind of slasher. I mean, that movie and Sorority Row, because they kind of came out way late in the whole, like, because they were like, oh, you guys still making slashers.
They were still like the sexy slashers, part of the remake craze. Right.
I love Sorority Row. I mean, it's like kind of like, that's another movie that like it flopped when it came out, but people appreciate it more now.
They're movies that, if there was streaming, they would have been huge on streaming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Huge.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is what people love about us. We just go to tangents for like a little bit.
Towards the end we could just keep going. We're like, all right, well, enough of High Tension. Next time. But no, let me know when you want me for Scary Movie, because man, what a special one now it is.
That'll be a funny one, and there's so many like jokes and stuff, and I can't wait to do that one. That's gonna be a fun one to do coming up. And as always, like, you're always welcome on Back to the Blockbuster. You're always a pleasure having you. Thank you for joining me for this one. Thank you for inspiring me doing this one, because
I'm so happy.
Watched that movie a long time, and it was good to revisit it. I agree with you, though. I'm happy to tuck it away now for a little bit and not watch it for a while.
You can't. I mean, anyone who's watching this that often, over and over again, worried.
Give them the side eye. Give them the side eye. And as always, you can get Back to Blockbuster wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's Good Pod, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want to listen to us. But you can also listen to us on the Play the Studio app because they're our podcast network and they treat us really well. And they are doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes for us that we'll be able to announce very soon. We're thinking about announcing some of this stuff on our 250th episode. So that'll be in the next few weeks. Because we can't figure out what to do on the 250th episode. And I was like, well, maybe we should just announce what we're doing that's new.
I can't believe you've made that many. That is wild. Good for you. I'm about to hit 100 and I'm like, whew. Yeah.
It's just like a lot. But I don't know. It's a really interesting time and fun time for the show. A very busy time, but we're looking forward to like what's coming next. And we're looking forward to all the help from our special guests that actually help keep the episodes going. Like I said this offline. Jackson was very busy this week. We don't like to miss a week if we don't have to with an episode. So you helped us out in the big way this week because we won't miss a week
I'm
now,
honored.
we'll have something out.
We'll
have something out.
Yeah.
So yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you guys for always listening to us. Oh, and you guys actually, for the first time, this was our first episode recording since this happened, but we on Good Pods, we were number 1 on the film review chart and the TV film chart at the same time. And that was the first time we were on number 1 on both at the same time. So
wow, good for you. I have not opened that app in so long. I got to open it up.
It's easy. I mean, it's cool to utilize it a bit more now. There's a lot more shows on it. It really does cater to like the independent podcast, which is really cool. A lot of people are saying they're discovering us there, so
good.
I'm like, listen to us wherever you want, but like, I will, it seems like that's something that's growing that could be bigger.
That's great
as it like evolves. So
good.
I'm glad you guys are finding this on there. It is interesting to see your podcast, like, because they mix in the indie with like the main ones, and like there was one point I think we were in like 4th on like the TV and film category, and like Amy Polar's podcast was like right beneath it. I was like,
oh my god, that's wild. I love her podcast too. It's a good
I was
show.
like, there's no real way that we're ahead of that podcast, but that's hilarious just to like see it like that. And then we were like ahead of Dateline one time too. That was kind of funny. I was like, we were ahead of like true crime.
Wow.
So it's it's on that platform, so it's like different, and everything.
That is wild. I love it.
But yeah, support your independent podcast, whether it's our show, the Release Date Rewind podcast. We're all, we're doing this for fun, but if we can, make a little like something, like that's good too.
That'd be nice.
That'd be really good. That would make all this hard work
just
a
lot.
$1. Give us a little something. But yeah, until next time, guys, we'll see you soon. And thanks again, Mark, once again.
Thank you.
For High Tension. Peace out.